This video features the installation of our spring-centered street kit with our Streetlite Flywheel. However, kits are available in different configurations based on the flywheel being used, the torque being produced at the crankshaft, and your style of driving. The installation procedure will be the same except for the flywheel and disc being used. Solid centered kits designed for use with the factory dual mass flywheel are also available. For a complete list of kits with their full details and specifications, please see the description below. While this video provides the basics on how to replace a clutch and flywheel, it is in no way intended to replace a factory service manual. Begin by disconnecting the cable from the negative terminal of the battery. Move it away from the post to assure it will not make accidental contact. Unfasten and remove the plastic splash guard under the transmission. Unbolt and remove the front reinforcement plate. At the center of the vehicle, unbolt and remove the tunnel braces. At the rear of the vehicle, unbolt and remove the V-shaped support rod. Unfasten the front exhaust flanges. Unfasten the rubber mounts on each side of the rear muffler. Remove the exhaust system. Unfasten and remove the tunnel heat shield. Unfasten and remove the right front heat shield and then the L-shaped bracket. Unbolt the rear driveshaft flange. Make sure to mark the driveshaft and output flanges at both the front and rear to allow for reassembly in the same position. Place a jack under the transmission. Unbolt the crossmember from the transmission, then unbolt it from the vehicle's body and remove the crossmember completely. Unbolt the front driveshaft flange. Unfasten the center mount and then remove the driveshaft. At the driver's side rear upper portion of the transmission, disengage the electrical plugs for the sensors. Unbolt the slave cylinder and remove it from the bell housing. Do not open the hydraulic system. Remove the retaining clip and washer from the gear selector rod and remove the selector rod from the shift lever. Disengage and remove the clip pin and free the shift arm from the transmission. While not necessary, we separated the shift arm from the shift lever as well. Remove the bell housing bolts. Disengage the transmission from the engine and then carefully lower and remove it from under the vehicle. Remove the bearing and shift fork and then clean off the guide tube and the input shaft splines. Lightly coat the input shaft splines with the purple Saran lube included with your kit. Slide the disc onto the input shaft to work the lube into the splines. Remove the disc and wipe off any excess lube to prevent contamination of your new clutch. Also, lightly coat the guide tube with Saran lube. Place the shift fork back onto the transmission. Place a small amount of lube onto the pivot points of the new release bearing and then install the bearing into the fork. Unbolt and remove the old pressure plate and disc. Unbolt and remove the old flywheel. On this vehicle, we will be installing our spring-centered street kit and our Streetlite Flywheel. Remove the old pilot bearing and install the new pilot bearing included with your clutch kit. Install some type of thread sealing compound on the new flywheel attachment bolts included with your ACT flywheel. Mount the flywheel and torque the bolts to 77 foot-pounds in a star pattern. Place the covering plate on the back of the engine if it was removed. Make sure to clean the friction surface area with a non-petroleum-based cleaner. Clean the friction surface of the pressure plate with a non-petroleum-based cleaner. Set the disc in position, making sure the directional marking is facing in the right direction, and use the alignment tool to hold it in place. Place the pressure plate in position and install the bolts. Tighten the bolts in a star pattern until snug. At this point, you can remove the alignment tool. Now torque the pressure plate bolts to 25 foot-pounds in a star pattern. Lift the transmission back into position and engage it to the back of the engine. Install all the bell housing bolts and tighten them to the specified torque values shown in the graphic. Install the slave cylinder back into position onto the bell housing. Tighten the hardware to 18 foot-pounds. Place the shift arm into position. If it was completely removed, connect it to the shift lever first and then place the front into the transmission. Install the clip pin and secure it. Lube the gear selector rod and place it into the shift lever. Install the washer and secure it with the retaining clip. At the driver's side rear upper portion of the transmission, connect the electrical plugs for the sensors. Place the drive shaft into position, making sure to align the marks made during disassembly. Install the hardware at the rear hand tight. Install the hardware for the center mount hand tight to hold it up in place. Lift the transmission up to align the drive shaft's flex coupling to the transmission output flange. Install the hardware and tighten to 85 foot-pounds. Place the cross member into position and tighten the body attachment bolts to 31 foot-pounds and the transmission mounting nuts to 16 foot-pounds. Tighten the center mount hardware to 16 foot-pounds. Tighten the hardware at the rear of the drive shaft to 23 foot-pounds. Install the tunnel heat shield and tighten the hardware. Then install the L-shaped bracket. Then install the L-shaped bracket. Place the exhaust up into position. Install and tighten the hardware for the rubber mounts on each side of the rear muffler. Connect the front exhaust flanges and tighten the hardware. At the center of the vehicle, install the tunnel braces and tighten the hardware. At the rear of the vehicle, install the V-shaped support rod and tighten the hardware. Install the plastic splash guard under the transmission. Install the front reinforcement plate and tighten the hardware to 43 foot-pounds. Reconnect the negative battery cable and tighten the nut. Thank you for watching. Support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel.